this point is the Pentagon's playbook regarding UFOs? I mean, with that report that came out recently, basically they're saying that there are some things out there we don't know what they are. Okay, they're not saying it's extraterrestrials. They're classifying these objects as other. Okay, they just don't know. They admit that these things are doing things that our aircraft cannot do. Okay, but they're not saying it's extraterrestrial. So, what's the playbook here? What are they trying to do? They trying to come out with this information very slowly. This is what is very possible, which I think is happening. I think that, okay, in 1947, something crashed in Roswell that was not from this planet, and there were alien bodies and a craft that were recovered. It was covered up. There was a group that was established to keep, all these kind of things, Roswell and any other crashes, any other UFO any other crashed UFO recovery secret, anything with alien knowledge of alien bodies, all that was kept secret. It was probably under the umbrella of an organization. Some say it's called Majestic 12. Whether it's still called that today or not, I don't know. Whether it was ever called that, I don't know. But for the sake of this discussion, we're going to call it Majestic 12. Okay, then that's been in place for decades. It was established under Truman. It was probably modified somewhat under the Eisenhower administration in the 50s. Whether other presidents after Eisenhower were, alerted to this reality that there are extraterrestrials, I don't know. I do not know. I think maybe some of them were and some of them weren't. You would have to think that George H.W. Bush, or a.k.a. George Bush Sr., you would have think that he would have known. He was CIA director at one point, so you would have to believe that he would have known. I think Ronald Reagan probably knew. I mean, Jimmy Carter saw a UFO. Did they tell him when he was in office? Who knows? Nixon, I would think Nixon would know because he was Eisenhower's vice president. So I would think he was in on it, so he would have known. I don't know about presidents after that. Was George W. Bush? Did he know? Did Obama know? Did Trump know? Does Biden know? That they're questions. I don't know the answers to those questions. But regardless, this has been kept secret. There's an organization. They established some sort of regulations, rules with regard to this matter, to this problem, back during the Truman's and then later Eisenhower administrations. And, they've been keeping this secret for decades, for over 70 years, 74 years at this point we're looking at. And so now, over the past few years, they're, the Pentagon is admitting, okay, first they say, yeah, these videos were taken from our, we don't know what they are. And okay. I mean, it's going to be hard for them to come out with the absolute truth all at once. I mean, you have to think about it. A lot of people, a lot of citizens are going to be upset if they find out that there was a cover-up. So I don't think they're going to ever do that. I don't think they're ever going to admit that they're covering up. I think they're going to just say, well, all that stuff in the past, we don't know about that. But since 2004, there's been some things happening. And they got to start doing this because there could be an event at some point here in the future where, the aliens do something that make it impossible to cover up. They could just, some flying saucer some giant mother craft could just start hovering over New York City and there's going to be no denying it then. I mean, who knows what they're going to do at some point. So at least by doing what they just did, that covers their butts a little bit, But I don't think they're ever going to come out and say, they should, but I don't think they're ever going to come out and say, yes, there's been a cover up and, it's been going on since 1947. And yes, there was a spaceship and bodies recovered in the desert outside of Roswell. And we lied. And yes, there were citizens that were intimidated and threatened and, but that was, but here's the thing. They could just say, hey, that wasn't us. That was people of the past that did that. I just can't imagine, like what it would be like, somebody from the Pentagon, some generals, whoever, a general standing at a podium somewhere in Washington saying, I don't know, yeah, aliens are real. I just can't see it. It just it would just be too much trouble for them. It would seem, it's like, it's just not going to happen. I just don't see them doing it that way. So what they're doing instead, they're going to just try to forget about all that stuff in the long past and try to focus on the last, 20 years basically, and say that, yeah, well, we've been seeing these things that we don't know what they are now. And, whatever happened in the 90s and the 80s and the 70s and the 60s and the 50s and the 40s, yeah, we had nothing to do with that. Like we don't really have any, they're just going to lie about that, I would think. Maybe 500 years from now when everybody from that could have been alive during this period are all way gone, and all their family members and and children and grandchildren and great grandchildren are way gone. Then maybe somebody then at the top will say, yeah, here you go, here's the information. But this, I just don't see them ever doing it. So I think what their game plan is that they're gonna just, right now they're telling you that, yeah, there's things out there we don't know what they are. We need more scientific study. Maybe Congress will throw them some more money to look at this. It's all phony. They already know, right? But this is just to appease the masses, because most people out there, I mean, they either don't know for sure or they just don't believe, So to appease everyone, they're going to do this nice and slow, ease them into the idea, right? Now, let me just say something here. I came into the understanding. I realized at a certain point in life, when it finally occurred to me, it was probably the full realization that yes, this is real. It was probably a little over 10 years ago, probably around 2010. It was I had, by that point, I had done a lot of research. I read a lot of books. I had my own experiences. I had 3 different things that happened throughout my life. And then it got to a point, I read all these books and I understood it. It's like, it is real, but what am I going to do about it? There's nothing I could do about it. The only thing I really wanted more to see was, I wanted more information about it. I wanted to know, what did the government know? I mean, just give me a basic idea, just an understanding of how the craft might work, how do they operate. I was interested in that. I was interested in how many different species do they think are coming here. I'd love to see the pictures, or of these things if they have them, and I'm sure that they do. I'm sure they have recovered bodies from some of these crashed spacecraft. And I'd like to see that. I'd like to know, what's the physiology of these things? What did they learn from it? But that was beyond my control. But I did realize that, yes, this is real. You come to an understanding at some point where, you wonder for many years. You do your research, and then after all the research is done, you understand. Okay, yes, it's real. And then you just, there's nothing I could do about it. So then you just move on, because you hit a dead end. Basically, that's where I guess it was probably. I'd say, 2010, 2011, after doing all this research, you hit a dead end. And it's it's real, but what could you do about it? I mean, seeing one of these things, that's great and everything. It's very, very, very exciting. I could say that. But I just want to know what's going on. I'm interested in it. I would hope that other people out there are interested in it now. I mean, basically, with this report coming out, the government's telling you, hey, there's no reason that, there should be no stigma attached to this anymore. There are things out there. We're telling you, there's things out there, we don't understand them. We're not saying it's extraterrestrial. They don't want to go there yet. I think they should. They should just say, you know what? Enough of this subterfuge. Enough of this lying. The people who started this Majestic 12 way back in the day, they're all gone. They're all dead. We've been following the protocols established, 70 years ago up until now still. Like, why are we still, following these same protocols that were established decades and decades ago by people who are long dead? The world is a different place now. People are ready for this now. They want to know. They want more information. I'd love to know more. There's a lot of people out there who've been studying this, who've been researching this over the years. They want more information. And as far as the rest of the world is concerned, those people who say they don't know, they want to believe, they're just not sure, and the people who, oh, that's crazy. Those people, they need to know the truth. Those people need to know the truth. We just can't have the whole world, living in this fantasy of that it's not real, because it is real. And, I just wish that whoever's in charge of this Majestic 12 program, the people, they need to get together here already. You need to get together. You need to, it's time. Stop this slow disclosure. It's just like an insult to intelligence. It's like, come on. There's people out there. There's people out there that would love to talk about this too, that are working for you guys. But they can't because they'll get in trouble. They'll go to jail or you'll ruin their lives. That's not fair to those people either. I mean, imagine being one of these people that are, working for the government, studying these craft, trying to figure out how they work, how they tick. And the whole time they're living under this threat that if they ever say anything, if anybody ever finds out what they're doing, you're probably going to end up in jail. You're going to get fined and who God knows what. I'm sure there's some sort of terrible, horrible threat, hanging over their heads. This is not the way to run the ship here. Let's just, this soft disclosure, it's just not good enough. It's not good enough. People out there, I know what's going on. I've seen one of these things right above, 2.5 stories above the ground, floating right above my head. It was gigantic. No sound. There was no way it was made on Earth. That was almost 30 years ago. Like I said, people are they're tired. They're tired of this. They're tired of waiting. And these people in the government who are in this, come on. Again, you don't have to let it all loose. You don't have to say, you don't have to tell everybody, the whole world. You don't want to tell our enemies, what you know about anti-gravity or, anything like that. But just, give us the basics. Give us the basics. Tell us about the beings. How many are there that you know of? Do you know anything about the abductions and what they were doing there? Do you have any information on that whatsoever? Or are you completely in the dark on that kind of stuff? Is there any information that you have that, explicitly ties extraterrestrial visitations to cattle mutilations? Now, it would seem that I would hope to God that you would know these things or have some information on this. It would be interesting to know. Let us know what's going on. It's just way too long. The people who came up with these protocols, they're in the grave. They're dust. They're long dead. It's time. So, what's the playbook here? Just to give us this year and then wait another 10 years and say maybe 10 years will come out. 10 years from now, come out with another report saying now maybe it's extraterrestrials. Come on. This it's not fair. It's not fair to the world. It's not fair to the history books. The playbook needs to be replaced. Whatever that playbook is, it's time to throw it out. Okay, the people who wrote that initial playbook, they're long gone. It's a different world now. If those people who wrote that playbook saw all the stuff that we got going on in 2021, they would think it was science fiction. They wouldn't believe it. Anyway, just a thought.